Hi everyone, this is Steve with SteffenMarkkus. Today we are answering a question that you sent in, which is, what is the difference between grocery store coffee and specialty coffee? That's a really great question. Now there's a technical answer, but there's also a practical answer to this question. Let's start with the technical answer to the question. The Specialty Coffee Association defines specialty coffee as the highest quality green coffee beans roasted to their greatest flavor potential. Now this definition is very broad, I know, but it is accompanied by specific criteria and a process that examines the attributes of the coffee such as fragrance, aroma, flavor, aftertaste, acidity, body, balance, and defects in sweetness. All this information is scored on a scale of 60 to 100, with a score of 60 being at the lowest and 100 at the highest. A score of 80 or higher is considered to be specialty grade. And what that means is coffees that are below 80 may indeed be good, but they don't make the cut as specialty grade coffees. Now that's a technical answer. What are the practical differences? Well, there are a few things you can use to differentiate the differences, okay? Number one is coffee origin, which means where exactly was the coffee grown and harvested, what country, what region of that country, what altitude, and sometimes even what farm or co-op did it come from and what processing method was used to process that coffee. Secondarily, there is the roast date. How fresh is the coffee? When was it roasted? And then finally, the third descriptive attribute is the profile, the flavor profile of the coffee. Okay, to illustrate the differences, I have one specialty coffee that we roasted ourselves, and then we have 4 grocery store coffees that we're going to look at. Okay, so the first area is coffee origin. So this specialty coffee came from Ethiopia, from the Guji zone of Ethiopia. And in our description card that we provide with this coffee, we describe where it was grown in the Mandero Mountains at an elevation of 6,500 feet. And this coffee is from the Guji zone, that is a heavily forested region of Ethiopia. Okay, it's a natural process coffee, dried for 3 to 6 weeks, and raked continuously throughout the process. Okay, so that's the processing as well as the origin of this particular coffee. Okay, so we look at this coffee A. When I look at the label, there is no indication whatsoever of where this coffee comes from. The only indication of what coffee type it might be is Arabica. It says 100% Arabica, but that's not saying much because most all the coffees you buy today are actually 100% Arabica. So nothing about the origin of it. When we look at coffee B, there was an indication on the label that it is Ethiopian, but no mention of processing method, no mention of origin within Ethiopia, and no mention of elevation. So in all likelihood, this might be an Ethiopian. It's a blend of multiple Ethiopian coffees, okay, and others as well. This third coffee, no mention of origin whatsoever. The only thing it mentions are the flavors of the coffee itself, and the same is true for this coffee D. Now that's not to say any of these coffees are bad. All I'm trying to describe here are the kind of the differences between grocery store and specialty and what you're going to find. Okay, so roast date, that's the second attribute. So with specialty coffees, most specialty coffees have a roast date printed right on the bag. This one's dated last week, so this one we just roasted, so it's very fresh. This coffee has no roast date on it. All it has is an expiration date. What's interesting is the expiration date on this one is 10 months away. Okay, so that's a long time. It's a long shelf life for coffee, much longer than I would recommend. This third coffee, or the second grocery store coffee, was roasted 6 weeks ago, and it actually has a roast date on it, which is unusual for grocery store coffee, and it expires 10 weeks from now. So it actually has an expiration and a roast date on it. The same is true for this particular coffee, but it was roasted 10 weeks ago. So it's 10 weeks old and expires in another 6 weeks. Okay, and these, well, as I mentioned, I bought all these coffees yesterday. And by the way, I went to the back of the shelf and pulled the freshest ones. Okay, and then this last coffee was roasted 10 weeks ago, and it says it expires in 6 weeks. So, difference here is you're talking about days to weeks old. When you're talking about grocery store coffees, they can be as much as 2 months old in these cases, 2 months, 6 weeks old, or as long as 10 months old. So there's no way of telling in some cases when the coffee was roasted, but in other cases the coffee is just older than what you would get for specialty grade. Okay, so now the third difference, flavor profile. Okay, so for a flavor profile for a specialty coffee, they're going to give you very specific flavor nuances that you expect to experience with the coffee. So for this particular coffee, when we roast this coffee, it reveals blueberry, dark cherry, licorice, and a hint of strawberry. Okay, so very specific flavors. The fact that you hear about dark cherry, licorice, and cherry is indicative of this particular region of the coffee. Okay? As it relates to this particular coffee, the flavors are nothing more than rounded, smooth finish. For this coffee, it is smooth and balanced richness. For this coffee, citrus, dark chocolate, and sweet. Okay, so that's an improvement. So this is probably one of the ones I want to try out. And then finally, this one, the only descriptions are dark chocolate and marshmallow. So that's clearly a dark roasted coffee. Okay, so those are the dominant differences. So to recap, specialty coffees are the highest quality and most flavorful coffee you can buy. Origins, roast age, and descriptive profile are what help you distinguish it from all the other coffees that are out there, or the grocery store coffees. So in any case, thanks for the question. Keep those questions coming in, and see you soon. And be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.